NIO. Again, the last time we kind of talked about it, and when we've talked about China's moving forward with their COVID protocols, it seemed like your perception was that they were going to kind of loosen up a little bit. Production was going to continue with NIO. It seems like that hasn't happened. It seems, I'm going to read this quote real quick. NIO has suspended production as COVID has caused supply chain partners in Jilin, Shanghai, Jiangsu, and many other locations have suspended the production because of COVID outbreak and have yet to resume. What's your take on that?
Temporary, backward looking.
Okay.
Yes, China did crack down on COVID-19. There's been a wave of lockdowns that has hurt production. Obviously, NIO's had to suspend production of vehicles. But if you look at the more recent news flow over in Shanghai, our thesis has always been that there is no way the Chinese government institutes 2020 style lockdowns with success in 2022 because the Chinese consumer is not isolated from the world. The Chinese consumer is connected to the world via the internet. The Chinese consumer knows what's going on in the rest of the world. And the Chinese consumer knows very well that COVID-19 is not a risk large enough to be shutting down entire cities and entire economies. So there has been significant pushback, as we expected, to these lockdowns. Whether or not the Chinese government would listen to that consumer pushback, that's the major question. But the thing is that China is a very proud country. And when they set economic targets, the government sets economic targets for a certain year, as they've done for 2022, they want to hit those targets. Locking down cities, locking down economies, shutting down production, coupled with a very angry general populace, is a cocktail for missing your economic target. So we were always under the impression that China's zero COVID policy was going to not go away, but gradually adjust over time to be more like what it is in the rest of the world. And we are starting to see that. In Shanghai, the Chinese government is starting to compartmentalize the city. So in 2020, they had just citywide lockdowns where no matter what zip code you were in, what building you were in, everything was locked down. That's how things started in Shanghai. But over the past week, they have shifted to compartmentalized lockdowns where, okay, this part of the city, COVID cases are surging, we're going to keep it locked down. This part of the city is getting better, let's reopen it a little bit. So this compartmentalization is the beginning step towards shifting the zero COVID policy towards a live with COVID policy. To that front, now let's talk about NIO. When we look at NIO, yes, this first wave of lockdowns was significant, was totally world stopping in China. And that's why NIO had to suspend production. But it looks like the evolution here is towards much less severe lockdowns. If this evolution persists, as we believe it will, then the current suspension will not last very long. And NIO will get back to producing cars and its factories will be back at normal operating capacity within the foreseeable future. As that happens, we expect the company's growth narrative to once again start kind of firing on all cylinders. They got the European expansion. They got the ET7 new model launch. We've heard murmurs of an American expansion going on. We have the Chinese government supporting their listing on foreign exchanges. So outside of the COVID lockdown situation, the NIO growth narrative looks pretty good. Once we get past this lockdown situation, and it feels like we're already evolving from it, that will allow NIO stock to continue to resume what was its big bounce. Remember, it bounced from that $14, $13 level all the way to 2022, 23. It's given back some of those gains to around 20. We're still up big from that low. We think that rebound persists as these lockdowns evolve into much less severe lockdowns, which allow for continued robust production of NIO electric vehicles in the country of China.
And how much does the supply chain issues also play a role when it comes to NIO specifically, compounding with the what you just discussed with COVID?
Yeah, well, it's a huge thing. The supply chain is a big part of the NIO growth narrative. They got to produce cars to sell cars. Global supply chain pressures, as measured by the New York Fed's new index, the Global Supply Chain Pressure Index, have been moderating for several months because everywhere except for China, the COVID-19 lockdowns, restrictions are meaningfully easing and significantly improving. That's why the global supply chain pressure index is moderating. Supply chains are improving everywhere except China. China's taken a brief step back, but we think this is a brief step back and will once again get back to improving supply chain. So we think that NIO's supply chains, both in China and globally, because they get materials from everywhere, are going to continue to improve, and that's going to continue to provide support for this rebound rally in NIO stock. So at $20, still bullish on NIO. Think the stock is way undervalued and a great play for 2022, 2023.
So your bullish thesis on NIO, does this translate to other Chinese stocks, or is NIO just kind of that, that convergence of things that you like to see in a business? Or are these issues that we're seeing with China affecting other Chinese stocks?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. No, we are generally not very bullish on China, just because there are so many geopolitical and economic risks over there, delisting risks. There's a lot of things you got to consider. So in order to get involved in a Chinese stock, you have to be very, very confident, have a very high conviction in that company specifically. NIO is a company we just have a very high conviction in. Their EV technology is very strong. They're really thinking about autonomous driving the right way. Their branding is very strong. They're expanding globally. We think that that's just a very strong narrative. When you look at something like Tencent, Alibaba, Bilibili, there's a lot of names over there, Baidu. It's a case-by-case basis. I think you only get involved in names over there that you are really, 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 really confident in, that you think have really, 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 really good long-term growth prospects. NIO is one of those companies. Most Chinese companies are not that to us. So no, overall, we are not overwhelmingly bullish on China, but we are pretty bullish on a very select few Chinese stocks. NIO is one of them.
Thanks for watching HGI Clips. For the full episode, head on over to our sister channel at Hypergrowth Investing by clicking the link in the description, or listen to the podcast on any of your favorite streaming platforms. We make new episodes every Wednesday, so make sure to check it out and subscribe to never miss any of Luke's Hypergrowth insights.